Welcome to Mrs. Milligan's Art Studio. Thank you for joining my channel. I will be here to help teach you how to learn to draw, to paint, and have a love of art. Today, artists, we're going to paint a wreath, and I have some visuals over here that I got from Canva, and I'm going to show you how to start it, basic, simple. The nice thing is you can find a lid, so I usually use a lid to, one of my favorite candles. And then I set it in there, and I'm just doing this in my book thing that I have. And then I go around very lightly with my pencil and trace it. So you've got a nice circle to start with. Then I usually take my kneaded eraser, and then I take most of this off, kind of roll it around. Takes most of the pencil mark off of it. I just want it as a guide when you're painting. And you can paint all different kinds of leaves. I'm sorry, wreaths with leaves on them. And I've painted them before with cards for people. Or you can just do it for, decoration. So then I've already got my paints ready to go. And I've got my circle on there. And I usually get a tiny little round brush. And I've mentioned these before. These are from Amazon. They're Princeton. They're really nice. This one's a 2. And you always want to clean your brush first. And then I'm going to start with, so here's my paint swatch of what the colors look like. And you can always have a piece of paper beside you. This is just a blank piece of paper, so you can test out your greens, see if it's the right green that you like. You can always do a paint swatch first. You can take a little bit of that and mix it with this one. See what you think. Put it right beside it, blend it together. And you can also mix these. Something that I learned from another YouTuber is if you take this is a nice little travel kit one that I have. You actually want to sand this down, and then you can actually mix on there and it's not so smooth. So I'm going to actually use this green that I have kind of mixed here, reviving a little bit. And I like to swirl my paintbrush so it gets a nice straight, not straight, kind of gets to a point. And you can start with painting that line. You can go all the way around the edge if you want to. So if I'm looking at this one here, I think you can see it. When I'm painting a leaf, I usually start from the outer edge. So it's the point, and then I bring it in. And with watercolor, you don't have to fill the whole thing in with paint. Makes it kind of nice. So I leave a little bit of white space there. You can bring in just tiny little lines. That's why I like to use a nice little small brush. And so then that's this leaf here. Oops. Or you can just have where it's a branch. You can alternate coming in. And you can do little berries at the end if you want to. Something else that I like to do when I do wreaths is take this and swirl it around, have it come into the inside, then off of here. And it's just a tiny little bit of paint that I have on my brush. I like to use tiny little brushes. And you can, off of this, you can add another little leaf. Okay, oops. Try to dip it in my candle. So if you notice I'm not filling all of it in, You can come back and make it darker while the paint's still wet. See how I'm making that green a little darker by just adding some dots? Now that has dried a little bit. Kind of like that little pattern. So that's painted. You got paint there. I can come back in and take water. Not add any more paint. It's kind of a washed leaf part of it. Now, while this is still wet, watch what happens when I add those drops in. Now I've got a little bit of this darker green. You come back in and add some darker green. You can also wait for it to dry and add more detail in once it's dry. I also like to make little like viney kind of things that come off the wreath. Fill it in. I'm pulling the brush away, kind of curving it around. You can turn your paper around. Just add different types of leaves. Kind of push, brush down gently. Have it be a point, push it back in. Like I said, leave some of it not painted. Come back in, add drops to it if it's already dry. You can, oh, there is where it's wet. A good brush really makes a difference when you're painting. You want to protect the tip of the brush. And you want to let it dry. Actually, flat is better, but I've told you before when I teach art in the classroom, I usually say up on the cup because I don't have time for them to set them there and let them dry flat. But if you have brushes at home, you want to just clean them, reshape them, and just leave them out on your desk. So if you haven't already, if you would please like and subscribe to my channel, I would appreciate it. Thank you. And my plan is to post things weekly. If there's something you'd like for me to paint or draw, just let me know. And leaves don't have to be green. Have them be whatever color you want. Be aware of if it's wet with your hand in your sleeve. Oops. If you look, I kind of have two different greens going on here. Might even add a third. So after you get all the green painted, my favorite part is to paint the little berries. You can come back in and mix the other green with different leaves. Okay, so I've got the basic simple part of the wreath. I'm going to clean my brush. And I've got these reds. I think this might be a crimson, I'm not sure. If you don't have too much paint, see how I kind of left that a little white in there? I've got a lot of water on my brush, so I'm making the circle bigger. Remember, you can always take your paper towel, take some of that paint off, actually pull it off of what you've painted, if you want to. Get a lot. Put way too much water in there. So I can like grab from the edge of it. I like to leave a little white spot though. Kind of like the little reflection. Kind of makes it look more like a berry, I think. And these are tubes of paint that I have filled this container with. So on this picture, there's kind of red berries and looks like black. Can't tell if it's black or a darker green. So here's my black. And I could just go in and put a couple berries together. Just put little dots. Doesn't matter where you put them. You can put just tiny little dots, not have to be a berry. You can add flowers to your wreath. Like this one here, it's little flowers. Okay, so there's a Christmas wreath. And you could write something in there. You could put Merry Christmas. You could turn this into a card. When it dries, you could come back in and add darker green. So I've got a little bit of black here, mixing it. You know, watercolor goes a long way. Maybe you want to add darker. Now let's say you paint this and you're like, ooh, I don't like that dark. While it's still wet, you can go in and dab it with your paper towel and take it off. Or maybe you're like, yeah, I like that. Kind of looks like a shadow. Remember, you don't have to paint the whole leaf. I like to just put a little bit of paint on it. Kind of create that little shadow. So you have two different kind of greens going on. And then you can also kind of take and add more around the center of the wreath. That really just, I think it just adds to your picture when you put that darker color in by just adding, mixing with a little bit of black. Creates that depth in your painting. And you can do the same thing with your berries. These are still wet, but I could go in and add a little bit of brown to them. Or take and mix a little bit of black in with that color. Okay. like I said, you could always take one of these nice pens and write something in the middle when you're done painting it, or you can leave it just like it is. And I usually put my initials in my painting, and sometimes I paint a little heart in there too.